The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning and welcome to LMKR's GeoSteering on the Web, WebSteering 2016.1.2 webinar. While we've had the pleasure of meeting many of you in person at various industry events, just allow me to still introduce ourselves. My name is Adnan Nazar, and I'm the Marketing and PR Manager with LMKR, and I'm pleased to serve you as your moderator for this morning's webinar. I'll introduce our presenter just after these housekeeping items. Please know that we've muted your microphones, so if you're not hearing us well, or if you're receiving any kind of feedback, please let us know. Please also know that there's only one audio option is selected at your end, either mic and speakers or telephone. Please do not select both. As we progress through the presentation, please feel free to send us questions using the question box in your dashboard. We'll be answering those questions live at the end of the demo. Also know that we're recording today's session, so expect to see a replay link in your inbox within next 48 hours. So those are some of the housekeeping items. Let's turn our attention to our presenter today, Scott Olfke. He's the Senior Product Manager with over 21 years of experience with GeoGraphix, and intros behind us. Scott, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Adnan. So today I want to introduce WebSteering 2016 1.4. Now, the WebSteering application has gone through a number of iterations, and we first released it in 2015. So this is actually probably our fifth or sixth iteration of it. So we're increasingly putting new features and functionality into the application. And some of the things that we put it in this time is we now have the ability to drop proposed surveys right into the browser to lay out your line of section. So before, you would go ahead and either type in your line of section, or you would have a proposed survey in GeoGraphix, and it would use your proposed survey in GeoGraphix to lay out your line of section. But now you can drop the proposed survey directly in, and it will lay out the line of section for you. Type logs could be dropped into the browser, or they could be retrieved from GeoGraphix to use in the tool. But now type logs can be dropped in the browser and actually added to GeoGraphix. This has always been the case with your deviation surveys and your LWD, but we've added it for type logs too. We've added the predicted curve on the MD measured depth for display of the 2D dip surface. The predicted curve, sometimes it's nice to use the predicted curve on measured depth because it provides a unique measured depth for every point in the well. So when you're geosteering on the type log with the type log in TBD mode, you'll get traversals, but you won't get that in MD mode. So sometimes a little bit helpful for you to understand what's going on. We can add any sort of secondary curve to the type log graph, and we've added support for NAT83 survey feet projections. Those actually aren't, for those of you that are GIS folks, there is no NAT83 survey feet EPSG code. So these are custom projections that we added. So with that, I want to start the demo here. And I'll just show you what you see when you bring up the WebSteering application. Now, GeoGraphix WebSteering can be used either in an online mode or an offline mode. It's all done in the browser. So it's an application that installs like a Flash plugin, and just takes a few seconds and installs into your browser. You can use Chrome or Internet Explorer. What you see here is Chrome. Once you have it installed, you can make a connection back to your GeoGraphix database. Now, you can use the tool either in offline mode or online mode. What that means is you don't necessarily need a connection back to GeoGraphix in order to geosteer your well. But if you want to get a type log or the surfaces that you want to use to help you geosteer, you do have to get a connection to GeoGraphix, and you have to retrieve that data before you can begin geosteering. However, after that, you can be completely offline and then just drag your LWD and your surveys in and geosteer the well. When you do get back on your network, you can push the results of your interpretation directly back into GeoGraphix. So here, I'll just do this real quick. I'll give it a connection name. So you'll make a connection, and we'll just call it like Web 6 or something like that. Now you need to access the GeoGraphix server, and you can access the GeoGraphix server either by giving it an IP address or giving it the server name. All GeoGraphix database servers now run web services. That's why when you're basically attached to your network, and I'm attached to the network right here, you can retrieve data from any GeoGraphix project. So I'm going to go ahead and just use the IP address, but like I said, you can certainly use the name of the server. And all of your GeoGraphix homes on that server are going to become available. So I'll just pick a GeoGraphix home and then pick the project that I want to, oops, where are we here? One second, I think I lost my projects. Oh, there we are. I'm sorry. Okay, so you select the project that you'd like, and then select the AOI. Now, all of the isomap layers that you'll use to geosteer the well are going to be located in that AOI. So remember to select the right AOI, and you can select the source list that you want to use. Your GeoProg pics will be available, and you may have a lot of them, as well as the pics that you've made on the type log well, the well that you're going to use as the pilot or the type log. And you may need to, because you have a lot of pics, be able to filter out some of those pics to only the ones that you want. So you can select the source list also. And then select your datum of the project and the map coordinate system. Now this is in the Barnett Shale, so I will go ahead and take the Texas North Central, and I'll go ahead and save it. Now you're going to see that little green icon over here, and what that means is you are now connected to GeoGraphix from the web. So the first thing we're going to go ahead and do is pick a well. Now the well you pick, and this well is going to be in GeoGraphix in this project, and I'll just say get GeoGraphix wells and select the well that I want. But you don't have to do that. You can, when you do the connection, select your well from WitsML. So if you have a WitsML server available and you're using Payson or Digidrill or any of the other providers, you can get the well directly from the server, the WitsML server. We support Payson, Digidrill. We also support any generic 131 WitsML server. So if you want to get your well that way, that's fine. I'm going to get the well from GeoGraphix, so I'm going to select a well in GeoGraphix. Or you can actually just add a new well to GeoGraphix, or just add a new well to the browser and go ahead and begin geosteering that way. The next step, pretty easy. We'll just go ahead and drag in our survey. But before we do that, I want to open up the survey so I can show you what it looks like. A lot of times you'll get a survey from your from the drillers looking something like this. It doesn't necessarily have to look just like that. Those columns don't need to be in that order, but you do need your measured depth, your inclination, and your azimuth. If you have the position log available, in other words, if you have your TVD and offsets, we can use that if that's the way you're getting your data. And a lot of times in Excel, when the drillers send you this kind of stuff, there'll be a lot of header information that you won't really care about, but we take care of that very easily. I'll just go ahead and shut that down. And I'm going to drag that Excel spreadsheet directly in. And you'll notice that it will automatically try to map your columns correctly. If it can't map the columns correctly, or it basically makes a mistake, you can map them yourself. But usually it's pretty good about mapping the columns the way that you want. If you do have a lot of header information in an Excel file, you can go ahead and select the header row and the number of header rows that you have, and the first row in the Excel file where you actually have data. So a lot of times, the first 3 or 4 rows will have some information in it that you don't really care about. But the header row will be like the 8th row or the 7th row, and the data row will start at the 9th row or something like that. You can specify that here. And I'll just go ahead, and once you hit the little button, in comes the survey. Now, of course, you'll do this. You'll drag in that Excel spreadsheet probably 20, 30, 40 times during the course of geosteering a well. But I'm just going to do it all at once for time constraints. And I'm going to change it to VSD mode. So you can steer both in measured depth and VSD, vertical section distance. Most folks tend to steer in VSD because you lay out a completely straight line. But you can use either way. And I'm going to do just set it up here a little bit. Try that. And so that we're in the right spot. Now you can change your colors. So when you make it a little bluer, there we go. And then you can save the survey directly back into your GeoGraphix project. And that's the project that you selected on that setup page in the beginning of the webinar. Now this is really nice because in the space of a few button clicks, you can just drag your Excel spreadsheet with your survey information into the browser, and you'll have it in GeoGraphix in 1 or 2 button clicks. If you're using WitsML, same thing. You select your WitsML wellbore here and the survey, and as soon as you do that, it'll update every it just depends on what vendor you have, but 5-10 minutes, possibly every half hour. You can just select that little button there and then just save it back to GeoGraphix, and then you're good to go. So even if you're getting data from WitsML, you can get your survey back into GeoGraphix very quickly. So the next step is to just add your LWD. And I'm just going to do that here. And this is just an LAS file. And you can select the curve, and the primary curve is the curve that you want to geosteer with. For most of us, it's gamma ray, some gamma ray, but it doesn't have to be. You can steer with resistivity if you would like, but we're just going to do gamma ray right now. And you can select your secondary curves. You might, in that LAS file, have a lot of secondary curves, rate of penetration, your mud log, that kind of gas log from your mud, that kind of information that could help you geosteer. But you can just select those, and you can see those in the tool, and they can help you geosteer the well. I only have a depth curve here, but I'll just say OK. And you can see now that we have the LWD has come in. Show you a few nice little things here. You can certainly add color fill. So I'll just do this. A picture's worth 1,000 words. Make that yellow or something like that. And that will show up, that color fill will show up when you're geosteering. You can color fill between curves. Lots of people like to do that. So you could add color fill between, for instance, your gamma ray and your mud log, or your gamma ray and your rate of penetration. But it's very, very flexible, and it's just another tool to help you understand what's going on while you're drilling and help you geosteer more effectively. Now I'm going to go over to the pick target here. Now, if you have geoprogs for your well, geoprog picks for your well in GeoGraphix, these will be shown automatically here. And I'll just zoom in a little bit so you can see I have 4 picks on my geoprog. If you don't have a geoprog for the well in GeoGraphix, and you want to select the tie-in depth, in other words, that depth, you know, the target formation, basically, you can go ahead and make that pick using the pick tool here and give it a name. Or you can actually, you know, if you actually find that you've been geosteering and you've hit your landing point, and the geoprog pick, it wasn't exactly right, you can go ahead and you can move these picks just up and down here, and they'll be updated in GeoGraphix immediately. Now, like everything else, you can save that curve back to GeoGraphix immediately. And we can do that right now, and then just move on. The next step is to add your type log. Usually, your type log is going to be a well, either the pilot, or it'll be a well very close to the well you're drilling. So we have a nice handy tool here that you can select the number of miles or kilometers if you have a metric project from the well you're drilling, and it'll show you all of the wells that have vector logs in GeoGraphix. And you can select a well. Turn that off. And I can select a curve, and like I said, we're just going to select the gamma ray and go ahead and add that. And that's the type log curve that you're going to be using to geosteer the well. You can add as many type log curves as you would like. You can only geosteer with one at a time. So the next step is to select the target formation. And so this is really where you're doing the well tie-in. Now, the way we do it is that you have to have a pick in your type log well, and that pick has to have the same name as your geoprog pick in your drilling well. So here we have a number of picks that are the same, and you know, generally this is going to be your target formation. It doesn't have to be your target formation, but it'll generally be your target formation. And we'll make this active. We'll be good to go. Now you can also pick the surfaces. Now this is one thing that WebSteering does very nicely. You're able to pick your isomap surfaces from your active project AOI and use them to help you geosteer the well. I'm going to go ahead and select the Upper Barnett subsea surface and add it here so I can see that. Now remember, you know, that surface is only a suggestion, I guess. You still want to be able to geosteer your well because that surface may not be correct. However, we can use the results of your interpretation after we finish geosteering the well and very quickly add them back to GeoGraphix. So all those interwell points that have been calculated for you during your geosteering interpretation while you're geosteering, they can be added back to GeoGraphix very quickly, and then you can update your target surface so you'll have a more accurate target surface for the next well you drill. I like to geosteer with a few marker beds too. Again, a picture's worth 1,000 words, so this is going to be the Upper Barnett. That's a shale. And I'll also choose the basal Atoka. This is in the Barnett, so the Atoka formation, and that is a sandstone. Okay, so we're good, pretty much good to go here, and we'll start geosteering the well. Now, that took a little bit of time, but really, when you're actually geosteering the well, all you're bringing in is your LWD and your survey, and it only takes a few seconds to drag in your LWD and your survey into the browser and have them back into GeoGraphix and ready for geosteering almost immediately. I'm going to zoom into the area here, and so you can see that we have a page for geosteering. Here you can see the LWD and measured depth. This is the type log and LWD. So here's where you'll be stretching and squeezing in order to change the direction of the dip or predict the dip of the surface above you. This line up here, this black line, this is actually the isomap surface that we added in the previous step. So when we went to surfaces, we added that isomap surface. That's the target surface. This is a fairly large bed, so we'll change the thickness a little bit. And then we'll start geosteering the well. Now we have a number of tools that help you do this. We do have now a calibration tool that sort of helps you geosteer the well. If you find, for instance, when you're trying to land the well, that your signal's not matching very well with your type log, you can go ahead and make some changes here. For instance, you can toggle, you can select the type log up and down. You can also stretch or squeeze a little bit here. Let me change that back. But a lot of times you want to be a little careful what you're doing before you actually land the well, because you're not going to get a really good correlation before you land the well. But after you land the well, we can start geosteering. So I'll just move this out here to maybe 3,200 feet, just to show you how this is done and how the tools work. You can zoom in very quickly. And I'm going to show this maybe right about there. Okay. That's not great, but let's just move it up a little bit. Looks a little bit better. We can save that segment, and of course you always geosteer in segments, and you'll probably steer 20, 30 segments in the course of geosteering the well. We'll add more signal. You go out to here, zoom up a little bit, and of course we just do this over and over and over again until we've completely got the well steered. Let me dial this back just a little bit. That's not quite good. Looks a little bit better. I'll go ahead and save it. Put in a new segment. Do that there. And that doesn't look too bad, but I think I got too much signal there. Zoom in a little bit to here. So, as you all know, what I'm doing is I'm calculating the dip of the surface. As you can see here, that's not too bad, but I have a lot of options here that help me do it. I'm going to save that segment so I don't forget it. I can have some calibration options here, so I can normalize the type log curve. I can also normalize the LWD. Sometimes, you know, you would hope that your type log and your LWD were properly normalized, but sometimes that's not the case. You can do that in the tool. So if you, for instance, haven't done your graphical curve normalization and you haven't done curve normalization on these curves, you can do it directly in the tool. And I'll go ahead and just add one last segment here. Now we have a couple big gamma spikes here, so this one will be fairly easy to see. There we go. I'll zoom out. Up a little bit. There we go. So now you can see we have a pretty good correlation here. And I'm going to go ahead and save that. Now there's a bunch of other stuff that we can do on the GeoSteering page. One thing we can do is we can put annotations on. So for instance, if I needed to annotate here, I can put annotations. And if that was too small, I can change my font size, something a little bit bigger. I can make it bold. And there you go. I can change the color if I would like to. I can move my annotation around. So you have the ability to annotate any way that you want to. You can also see all the segments. So it's very easy, and you can paste these segments into the clipboard. And once you get them into the clipboard, you can paste them directly into Excel if you would like. You can see the predictive curve. And I'm going to go ahead and change the color here so you can see it a little bit better. Make that red. And if I zoom in, I can see the predicted curve response. So that doesn't look too bad, but we do have a few breaks here. Let me zoom all the way out. We can move back segments to any segment that you want to geosteer again. Faulting is very easy to do. So if you want to apply a fault, you can just move the start line, and I'll just move it enough so you can see the fault being applied. Let's see, what else goodies have we done? There you go. So you can see we've applied a fault right here. Now I can just move that back up if I would like to. And, there you go. So this is how we geosteer the well. It's, like I said, it's a very, people have been using geosteering software for quite a while, and most of you are probably familiar with it. Very easy to use. But here we have the export button. So when we want to export, we can export the results, so the model results, to Smart Section interpretation. And we hit OK. And we bring up Smart Section. I'm going to go ahead and pick that well. This is the well that we're geosteering. Now I've added the model. Let's see, what do we got here? That's the wrong one. I'll go ahead and view that one in WellBase just to make sure it's the right well. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to update the model. So you'll notice that we have that target surface available, and that's the surface that sort of gave us a suggestion of where we were supposed to be. That's the wrong one. Okay, that's the other one. And I'm going to create a Smart Strat vertical section for that so you guys can see it. and I'm going to import the model. So this is a big advantage of using our web steering product if you're going to use GeoGraphix, because it literally is very, very easy to get your results back into GeoGraphix. And what you're going to use those results for is to update your target surface. So here I'm going to load. Let's see, 1033. Yeah, that's the one. Oops. Oh, wrong one, obviously. Hold on. Maybe I'm not. Oh, I got the wrong well. I'm sorry. Let's see here. There it is. Now what it'll do is it'll create a cross section for you. I'll load that up. And then I'll go and check my tie points. Now these are the what you're seeing right here with this vertical section in your dip. These are the vertical sections in the dip, the vertical section distances and the dips of the segments that I just geosteered. So I hit that export button, brought the model in, and there you have all these. And I'm going to basically show all the type logs. It's a little so that you can see what we're doing here. And I'll go back to my cross section. Close that for a while. And I'll go back to my cross section. Got a little resolution problem here, so I'm going to zoom in so you can see it a little bit better. Oops. There we go. Now what you're seeing here, you really don't need to see the gamma. Make it a little bit bigger for you. Now this line in pink, that is the predicted surface. So this is the surface that we just brought in from WebSteering. So that's what you're predicting, or I'm predicting, the surface should be from the model. In other words, I geosteered the well, I geosteered the segments. That's my prediction of where it should be. Now the black surface just above it, that's the current upper Barnett surface. So what we want to do here is go and make the upper Barnett the active surface and zoom in a little bit. And what I'm going to do is pick that point. And now I'm going to make my modeled surface coincide with my predicted surface. And I'll do that for all of my points, and I'll go through here. And once I do that for all of it, now I have a modeled surface that coincides exactly with my predicted surface at that point. If I go back to my map window and I pick up that surface, I can then create an isomap layer that I can use in the web steering application for the next well I drill. think it's Upper Barnett, sub C. And I'll go ahead and create that isomap layer using the information that the information from the well that I geosteered. And I'm going to overwrite it. And now I have an updated target surface to use for the next well that I drill. So you can see how this is sort of a big feedback loop. You go ahead and geosteer the well. You get the information, you get the segments, you get the interwell points, the dips, the VS, point, the interwell points. And then you create a model from it. That model is then exported directly from the WebSteering application back into GeoGraphix. You update the model surface, and then you import that model surface back into WebSteering as a more accurate model surface that helps you geosteer the next well. So that is all we have for today. If there are any questions, I would certainly be glad to answer them now. If not, you can get more information. Let me just bring up the, You can get more information from your account executives, or you can just visit GeoGraphix training or request a quote at products@lmkr.com. Like Adnan said, there will be a webinar demo of this available online, so you can review it at your leisure. And we have a whole lot of other webinars out there for you to review. So, Adnan, are there any questions that anyone wants answered?
Scott, no, we don't have any questions, so we're good.
Okay. So, thank you very much for your time, everybody. And I hope to I hope you're interested in what we've shown today, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye now.
Bye, everyone.